Nick Saban issued a strong warning for Curt Cignetti and Indiana regarding their ability to maintain their success. So, what was he talking about? We'll explore it. He has a good point. Lockdown Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Shemon, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, the number one sports podcast network out there. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hit that free subscribe button down below. That way you'll never miss a single episode. And if you could share, like, and follow, and hype, that would help us out a lot too. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. And if you are a new customer, bet just $5 to get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So, Nick Saban's warning to Curt Cignetti and Indiana. Plus, we'll have Big Ten news, recruiting, and we'll take a look at Ohio State's new offensive coordinator. And we'll have our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Indiana football coach Curt Cignetti has his football program dialed in. Just won a national championship, undefeated, did it with 0 5-star players on his roster and only 7 4-star players, as a matter of fact. Now everybody wants to come play for him in Bloomington, right? Pretty successful transfer portal period. We'll talk about that in a moment. But this is where Nick Saban, who won 7 titles, 6 at Alabama, 1 at LSU as a head coach, and by the way, once had Signetti on his staff at Alabama, says Signetti should be very, very careful. Up until now, kids came to Indiana just for an opportunity to play football. And if they prove themselves by giving their all, they would be rewarded. And these kids that just came there for Curt Cignetti his first 2 years, they were rewarded. Saban says that Signetti needs to be aware that a lot of kids will now come to his program to see what Indiana could do for them instead of what they can do for Indiana. Saban said he ran into the same thing at Alabama, and it made his job a lot more difficult. See, a young 5-star recruit or a transfer portal kid, they would come to Alabama when Nick Saban was there with all their built-in success year after year after year, because if you made it at Alabama, Alabama was going to get you into the NFL just regularly. You can mark your calendar by it every year by just tons of Alabama kids getting drafted in the NFL. In Bloomington, instead of going there to prove yourself at Indiana, quarterbacks, for example, now know that they can go there. They can win a Heisman at Indiana. They can win a national championship. And under Signetti, who will develop you, you could maybe even be the top pick in the NFL draft. And that happens to all positions. I just use quarterback there to highlight the story here. But these kids may not be as hungry to work for the common good of the Indiana football team, the team. That's what Signetti bases his entire coaching philosophy on, the team. And it showed on the field. Again, with no 5-star superstars, Indiana displayed the epitome of complementary team football. They did it with error-free offense, stubborn defense, and a splash here and there from special teams that would tilt the game in their favor. And again, mistake-free team football. But Saban says, when you finally climb the mountain and you get to the top, you become the mountain. That's a great quote. Either players are going to climb on top of you to use you or the opposing teams. You're the mountain. You're the goal. You're the chase. You're the one everybody's climbing up. You're climbing up you now. You're the mountain. It's a prudent warning by Nick Saban. And that guy had a lot of experience of how to not only get to the top of the mountain, but to be the mountain and stay the mountain year after year after year. So he knows what he's talking about. Usually when he speaks, I listen. I always enjoy hearing what he has to say, even though he did pick against Indiana in a lot of postseason games. By the way, there's an interesting dynamic to how Signetti is building his team moving forward. He always says that he values production over potential. Wants to take a kid that's already proven himself, got some experience, as opposed to an up-and-coming young star with all this talent that he's got to develop, and who knows, it may take a couple years. Signetti likes production over potential. And you would think after back-to-back years of success now, after arriving on the scene in Bloomington, that he would be climbing the ranks for high school recruits. If you pay attention to high school recruiting rankings, you might think that, Indiana would be pretty high up there. Not really with the high school kids now. And, Indiana's never done great in that category. Right now, the class of 2026, after 2 successful years under Curt Cignetti, they're ranked 34th nationally. I mean, if you're in the top 40, you're doing okay, but you just won a natty, and if you only lost 2 games in 2 years total, I think Indiana might be top 10 recruiting out of the high school kids. Still, no 5 stars, 7 4-stars coming in 2026. That's nothing to sneeze at, nothing to be ashamed of. Certainly going in the right direction. A lot of 3 stars, a lot of Signetti kids that are good, that he can develop a little bit, that he sees something that he likes in them in the high school level. But take a look at the transfer portal now of the kids that are coming into Indiana that just closed. Indiana ranked number 1 in their portal haul. I mean, some people have them ranked number 2, number 3, they're up there. They're among the best in the country in what they just brought in with experienced players. Remember, production over potential. That's where Signetti is hanging his hat on. And a couple of those guys that he likes, for example, TCU quarterback Josh Hoover, Michigan State wide receiver Nick Marsh. That's on offense. On defense, he's got guys like Penn State's A.J. Harris and Kansas State's Toby Osunsanmi. He's coming in, great edge rusher. Now, those guys, proven production over potential for Curt Cignetti. That's what he likes. To Saban's point, though, how many of those kids would come to Indiana without Indiana's success the past 2 years? How many of those kids year after year would have ended up going to Ohio State or Oregon instead of Indiana? So, how many want to see what they could do for Indiana versus what Indiana could do for them instead, like Saban warned about? But like Saban, Signetti can sniff this stuff out. He can sniff out the difference, and he can coach the type of player that he wants in the first place. I think that's Signetti's number 1 strength, to be honest with you. I think he can evaluate a kid and know what's in his heart and see his ability and get the most out of him. I haven't seen a coach like Signetti have his finger on the pulse of his team. He knows when to light them up. He knows when to go easy on them. I think that in his evaluation of players, I think that's what he's the best at. You ask, why is he so successful? That's why he's successful. That's what he can do better than anybody else in college football right now. So I guarantee you, Signetti right now in Indiana, he's snowed in right now. There's the big ice storm and the snowstorm that's gripped much of the country. By the way, I hope everybody is safe out there. I guarantee you right now, he's sitting in his lazy boy and he's pouring over film and rosters and schedules. Both this year's kids in the future. He's working. He said at the championship celebration over the weekend that Chapter 3 begins now. That's Season 3 at Indiana. And everybody else better keep up or fall behind. By the way, no word yet when Indiana would officially begin spring ball, although their spring game last year was the 3rd week of April, like a lot of people. However, I just want to point out, I remember Ryan Day was in this situation last year, coming off a national championship at Ohio State. And now our college football champions play 15 and 16 games. And right now, Indiana players are still recovering from that game. That was just last week, while everybody else has been off for a few weeks and kind of maybe lifting some weights and getting in off-season mode here. So it was this time last year that Ryan Day was actually considering not having a spring game to kind of give his guys a break. After all, playing 15 games, 16 games, that's a lot of games. And now ultimately he did go ahead and have the spring game at Ohio State, I think for a couple of reasons. I always give you my opinion on this podcast. First of all, Ohio State is one of the most successful spring games in the country. They put butts in the seats. They make a lot of money. And then the other one, he realized with all the turnover, kids go to the NFL, they're done with their eligibility. Got a lot of new kids that have to step up. I've never really had that game day experience as a starter, coming down the tunnel, going out on the field. And he knew he had a big week 1 game against Texas to open up the season. He didn't want that to be their first experience, have them be all nervous, and then not perform well against a big team like Texas. So ultimately he decided to have it, give that experience to his kids in the spring. And I think ultimately that's what Indiana will do as well. I imagine the same. He's got a lot of turnover. Curt Cignetti does this year. And a lot of those kids are moving on. And it'll be a lot of new guys, a lot of new faces, both at the transfer portal and guys that are ready, that have already been there, ready to step up. Indiana, by the way, opens up the 2026 season September 5th against North Texas. Already can't wait, even though I know he wants a break, probably of some sort. Be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. It's free. That way you never miss a single episode. And if you could share, follow, and like Locked On Big Ten, that helps us out too. Don't forget, we have a website, talkbig10.com. We put all of our podcasts there, but it's also a link for you to buy merchandise for your favorite Big Ten school. If you're an Indiana fan, get Indiana shirt, Ohio State, get the hoodies, pennants, Michigan, Penn State, Oregon, all right there. You can check that out. Coming up, we're going to talk about Ohio State's new offensive coordinator they got, just part of constant change around there because of their success as well. A legacy recruit at Oregon. We'll talk about that. And some notes from the weekend on basketball, notably from Michigan State, Nebraska, and an Illini freshman we got to start keeping an eye on for sure. Plus, I will tell you how you can join our exclusive Everydayer Club. That's all coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. Last call, football, FanDuel. Here we go. One more Sunday. Big game. One last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. It's bringing a tear to my eye. Very sad. So Super Bowl 60 and FanDuel, making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year, whether you're back of the favorite, the underdog, building one last same game parlay. It's all right there at FanDuel. This is the most fun event to do prop bets. What color is the Gatorade? Heads or tails on the coin flip? How long is the national anthem? All that kind of stuff at your fingertips. Your predictions can turn into big plays and all that into winnings with FanDuel. So it's a perfect way to cap off the season with the Super Bowl and make it even more exciting. So if you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So make it count because after the Super Bowl, season's over. So last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com and get started. That's at FanDuel.com. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten and making us your first listen each and every day. We never take that for granted. And also thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Now, here's how you can level it up just a little bit just for you. Join the Everydayer Club. And if you join the Everydayer Club, that means you get this podcast ad-free on audio, on Apple, Spotify, however you get your podcast. Get it ad-free, no interruptions. Plus, it gives you access to Discord. The chat was on there just having fun with some of our other Big Ten guys, trash talking. It's always fun. You could join in on that. So join our Everydayer Club. $5 a month, $50 a year. You can gift it. Go to lockedonbig10.supercast.com and check the link in the show notes for more information after that. Okay. The Indiana Hoosiers, just finish up talking about them. They capped off their national championship with their championship celebration on Saturday at Memorial Stadium inside with some brutal winter weather. I mean, it was a good crowd. I was surprised at how good it was. I'm not surprised at the loyalty of the Indiana fan. I'm surprised they braved the elements. I mean, it was right on the cusp of that winter storm that has gone everywhere. Wind chill at the stadium was -1. Ooh. The whole thing took like 35, 40 minutes. So they got in and they got out. It was a big celebration and everything. But they capped off college football's first 16-0 season since Yale did it in the 1890s and capped a crazy week where Heisman winning quarterback Fernando Mendoza made the rounds on the national talk shows like Good Morning America and The Tonight Show and announced he would enter this spring's NFL draft and be the presumptive #1 pick. Crazy, crazy stuff that you never hear coming out of Indiana. Curt Cignetti, as I mentioned earlier, mentioned at the championship celebration that Chapter 3 begins tomorrow. He's ready to go. Starting his third year. He's only lost 2 games in 2 years. Undefeated this year. 27-2. Just remarkable. Meanwhile, Ryan Day seems to have to hire a new offensive coordinator every year nowadays because of his success. And last year, remember, he promoted Brian Hartline, the longtime wide receivers coach, to replace Chip Kelly, who held the job for 1 year, a year in which the Buckeyes won the national championship. But Hartline has moved on to be the new head coach at South Florida. And so they have hired recently former Steelers offensive coordinator Arthur Smith, who was on Mike Tomlin's staff, to be the new play caller for Ohio State. And he'll go from coaching Aaron Rodgers to Heisman finalist Julian Sayin, along with wide receiver Jeremiah Smith and running back Bo Jackson. And he really loves a good running game. So Bo Jackson may benefit more than anybody out of this. Forgotten at all the excitement of the postseason that we just finished. Remember, Ohio State finished the regular season undefeated last year. Lost to Indiana by a field goal in the Big Ten championship game. Then they lost to Miami in the quarterfinals in the playoffs. So there's a lot of success there that can just keep on continuing here to get everything dialed in just right. Meanwhile, Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks, they just landed a legacy recruit commitment for the 2027 season in Eugene. Outside linebacker Sam Ngata. He's the son of former Oregon All-American and NFL All-Pro defensive lineman Halati Ngata. And the younger Ngata is 6'5", 210 pounds, from Salt Lake City, Michigan, and Utah, and BYU, and Cal were very interested in his services. The older Ngata, 3 years with the Ducks, had 151 tackles, 24 and a half tackles for loss, and 10 sacks. Again, that's from the inside. That's a defensive lineman, not an edge rusher. Those pretty good numbers. Oregon, of course, going to have a new defensive coordinator this year, and Chris Hampton. And the 2027 class is now growing as Ngata will play alongside 4-star defensive end commit Cameron Pritchett. And, of course, don't forget Dan Lanning's class of 2026 coming in right now, ranked number 2 in the country, right behind USC, by the way, with 5-star players Kendra Harrison and Emmanuel Ahianacho and Jet Washington. Meanwhile, Michigan State just released its spring football roster already. We've noticed wide receiver Alante Brown and wide receiver Rod Bullard, along with kicker Tariq Ahmed Basic, are all on the roster. All three had been in the transfer portal, so they were leaving, but it appears they're going to stay with new coach Pat Fitzgerald. Look, I think Pat Fitzgerald is a very good football coach, and I think he's going to, they have their challenges at Michigan State, and they're playing catch up. That's the right coach for that job. I think he's a good coach. Brown and Bullard, by the way, still waiting for an NCAA waiver on an additional year of eligibility. And also Trayvon Martinez is new to the list. He comes from Western Carolina, the transfer portal. So he's a defensive back, just portaled in there from the Catamounts. Speaking of Michigan State, did you watch any basketball over the weekend? Tom Izzo's squad had one of their most complete performances in years with their 91-48 win over Maryland. They led that game at one point 24-4. Then they scored 15 straight points in the second half. They were up 71-34 at one point with 11 minutes to go. Jeremy Fears scored 17 points, but also had a career-high 17 assists in that game. 17 and 17. It's pretty good. We had a top 25 matchup between number 11 Illinois and 4th-ranked Purdue. Illinois won that game at West Lafayette. Purdue's dropped 2 straight, 88-82. But the story there, freshman Keaton Wagler for Illinois made 9 3-pointers in that game. 9 of 11 on his way to a career-high 46 points. When you start dialing in this kid a little bit more. And also, in case you missed it, Nebraska still undefeated. 20-0 in basketball following the win over Minnesota on the road. Just some of the highlights from this weekend in basketball. We have a light slate tonight with Big Ten basketball. Men's, Penn State is at Ohio State. You can catch that game at 7 p.m. Eastern on FS1. Women's basketball, 25th ranked Washington with their 15-4 record. They're at Rutgers. So they got to go all the way across the country. And it's a 3 o'clock Eastern game, 12 o'clock Pacific for women's Huskies basketball on Big Ten Plus. You can check that out. Coming up, as we do every Monday, we have our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. We'll see if some of your observations match mine. We will do that here in 1 minute on Locked On Big Ten. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show that there's more to the score than what's on the screen. And I'm going to take this opportunity with Mazda to highlight Fernando Mendoza and the Indiana Hoosiers championship celebration on Saturday. Look, undefeated, won a national championship, got the Heisman, had the Heisman there. By the way, you may not know this. There are 2 Heismans every year, right? There's the Heisman that the player gets, and then there's the Heisman the school gets to keep forever and put on display. Those are different. And they brought that out at the celebration as well. All this reminds us of what it really takes to raise the bar, all that extra work off the field, dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, that never quit, just like Mazda. Put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel, but, it takes a lot to get there, to make it count. And there's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. So check out Mazda today, and wanted to highlight Fernando Mendoza. Mazda's moving the game forward. Thanks for checking us out here on Locked On Big Ten. Another thing that makes us unique, in addition to covering all 18 teams, news on the 18 schools, analysis of that news, opinion on that news. We never shy away from opinion, so that in itself makes it unique. We always like to close out also with more uniqueness with our features that we do every day, unlike anybody else. Mondays, we do our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Tuesdays, tomorrow, Tuesday tweets from X. Wednesdays, we power rank. Thursdays, we look ahead at the Big Ten Network and their weekend programming with Big Ten Classics, Big Ten live action as well, just to let you know, highlight some things that you probably want to see. And then on Fridays, we make our picks. No more pigskin picks. We'll do a Super Bowl pick. But other than that, it's basketball now for a while. Always like doing that. In the meantime, let's take a look at our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. We'll put it on screen. If you're on audio only, no problem. Spotify, Apple, this is how we do it with the video on YouTube. It's just a list, 10 through 1, with the school graphics. And I want to start out at number 10, my top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Want to note IU women's basketball. They blew a 17-point lead with 3 minutes to go this weekend at Maryland. And they ended up pulling out of the fire there and won the game in overtime, 85-78. That was back on Thursday going into the weekend, but that was a top rated matchup. Number 10 Iowa versus number 15 Maryland. And what a furious finish that turned out to be in that game. Wanted to mention that. At number 9, want to highlight Michigan basketball. So they got their win. Michigan and Ohio State on Friday night, right? The big rivalry. Michigan won 74-62. And Michigan's now 18-1 in basketball. Pretty good. Pretty good. All right, what else we got here? Let's see. Braden Smith from Purdue. They did lose to Illinois, but Braden Smith had 27 points and 12 assists in that game. Wasn't his fault. I wanted to highlight that performance. Guy's been steady all season long. Meanwhile, also we want to mention Cohen Carr from Michigan State versus Maryland. Just to highlight monster alley-oop dunk, just throwing it out way above the rim, just basically shot it downward. It was pretty incredible. It made our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. Wanted to share that. So let's stick with Michigan State basketball. Again, with that huge, complete win over Maryland, 91-48. Look, Maryland, they got a new coach. They're trying to figure it out. Meanwhile, Michigan State does not have a new coach. They have it figured out. That 43-point win was their biggest Big Ten victory margin since a 51-point win versus Michigan in 2000, the year they won the national championship. So Tom Izzo's got it dialed in there. And we have more for Michigan State and that game. Jeremy Fears. Look, the 17 points was nice, but the career-high 17 assists to go with the 17 points? Unreal. Wanted to mention that. Our top 10 Big Ten observations from the weekend. What else we got here? Okay, so I mentioned this earlier. We got to keep an eye on this guy. This is Illinois Keaton Wagler. He is a freshman guard. Scored a career-high 46 points at Purdue. That's not easy to do. He was unfazed by that Purdue crowd and made 9 3-pointers. Talk about shooter's touch on the road as Illinois wins 88-82. Keaton Wagler. Get used to that name. All right. Also on our list, number 3, want to give a shout out to Nebraska basketball. Nebraska 20-0 had their 76-57 win over Minnesota on Saturday. Price Stanford 22 points, 10 rebounds. Nebraska is now 9-0 in the Big Ten. That is their best conference start since 1966. It wasn't in the Big Ten, though. Remember, they were in the Big 8 back in the day. I mean, that's before my lifetime. That's how long ago that was. But very impressive start to the season. Number 2, I don't know if you watched the Indiana championship celebration for their football team. But as soon as they got out, John Mellencamp came out there on stage, again, with -1 wind chill, sang a song, got the team to sing with him a little bit, karaoke style. That was a little rough around the edges. Mellencamp was fine. And then our number 1 top 10 Big Ten observation, just that Indiana football parade. It wasn't really they pray. They walked over from Assembly Hall. They do their walk over to the football stadium, and then everybody's in the stadium. -1 degree wind chill. The fans that were out there, I will tell you this. I mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you caught it. So the entire celebration started right at 1 o'clock Eastern. It was done by 1:35. Those were the shortest speeches I have ever heard. There's nothing like -1 degree wind chill to keep speeches short. Yeah. That was hilarious over the weekend, but a nice way to end the season. Don Fisher, their radio play-by-play guy, who's been doing it for 53 years, emceed the event. Pam Winton, the president. Scott Dolan, the athletic director, who's now like the most successful athletic director in football. Curt Cignetti and the team all up there. It was a great celebration, a great way to put a cap on the season. And congratulations to the Indiana Hoosiers. That's it, our top 10 Big Ten observations for the weekend. Did I leave anything out? Let me know in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you. Also, again, as I mentioned earlier, if you want to join us and be a part of the Everydayer Club, I want to make sure I make this clear. We're free every day. We're free to subscribe. That's free. You can do that. We'd love to have you do that. But if you want to join the Everydayer Club, you can do that. And that gets you into our Discord chat group, get you special podcasts, and on audio, Apple, Spotify, our podcast, uninterrupted, ad-free, right there. $5 a month, $50 a year. You can gift it. Go to lockedonbig10.supercast.com. You can check the show notes afterward for more information there. On your way to checking us out for a second listen. See what we did the other day. If you missed it, get yourself caught up if you're brand new here on Lockdown Big Ten. Thanks for checking us out. We'll be back. Don't forget, tomorrow, Tuesday tweets, more football stories. Keep an eye on basketball. All 18 teams right here. For Lockdown Big Ten, I'm Craig Shemon. I'll talk to you next time.